Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Let's Talk Footy podcast. I'm your host, Shaheen, and today I'm sitting down with three coaches within the club, three familiar faces. I think you've all been on the podcast before, Fiona, Lautaro, and Elkin. So welcome back. It's my pleasure to have you guys. How's everybody doing? Good?
Pretty good,
We're
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Holding.
thanks for making the time. Elkin, have you recovered from the El Clásico? Let's just start off with that.
Wow. You're really going to go there right now? Okay.
Right off the bat, man.
So, yeah, man. Honestly, Madrid deserved to win, and that's all I can say.
Yeah. I think
100%.
Barca had their chances, but they didn't take them.
Yeah. It's a work in progress. Okay, so I will allow this for now, but
Yeah, well, that's right.
we'll see in a couple of years.
Okay. So to me, it sounds like you're not over yet. So I think you need a few more days. What do you think? Do you
Definitely.
think Messi's gonna stay or not?
As much as I want him to, it's up to him. He wants to win, so like at this moment he can't. With Barcelona, he can't. Right? They're still in a phase where they are trying to figure out how everybody plays well together, what positions are going to be the best ones for them. So it's a work in progress, and it takes time, right? And Messi is already 33, so it's really tough, really tough.
I agree. I remember when Ronaldinho's at the end of Ronaldinho's career at Barcelona, Pep Guardiola basically got rid of him because he wanted to build a new team around Lionel Messi. I feel like maybe that's something that needs to be done. Just, let Messi go, build a new team. Because let's say you figure it out and then Messi hangs around for another year or two and then Messi leaves and now you have the same problem again. I
Well,
don't
the
know.
problem is that they don't have anyone to build the team around, right? All their big money players are not really performing. Griezmann has done virtually like nothing in the last year and a half, right? Who do you really build a team around at this moment?
Yeah, it comes down to the one of the coaches, one of my like the guys that I look up to, Eric Teñado. He told me one time. He said it's all about the characteristics of the players, right, that you have in your team, and then you build from there, right? And then right now we're all over the place. We have Dembele, who's a very fast player, uh, technical player, but he's not able to play well with the team, right? So he's more like a 1v1 player. And then you have Griezmann, who is not able to as well. Um, Still, he hasn't yet developed that like Barcelona DNA.
I never thought Griezmann was a good fit for Barcelona, to be honest.
No,
Barca went
he's a
through this.
different player.
Barca went through this phase where they started just buying awkward players that didn't even
Yeah.
fit their style. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Real Madrid
I
used
think
to do that.
I think
back.
Griezmann works better when you have like two strikers and him being like the supporting striker.
Yes.
But he can't really play as the lone striker, and he's not fast enough to play on the wings. So
Yeah.
it's a weird, for the formation that Barcelona plays, it's a weird fit. He worked in Atletico Madrid because they play like a flat 4-4-2,
Yeah.
and he had someone to work with up top. But every time I see Griezmann in a Barcelona game, I don't understand why he's there, to be
Yeah.
honest.
It's awkward.
Same thing with Sergio Busquets, right? Sergio Busquets right now, it's a little bit older, and unfortunately, there is new players like Ilya Moriba, and then you have Ricky Puig, who for me is the best midfielder, other than Pedri and De Jong, right? I would put Ricky Puig up top because of he has creativity. He is, if anybody sees him play, he's in the right moment, trying to always go forward with breaking the lines with a pass or something creative, right? And
Does he play
something
more like a 6 or more like an 8?
No, he plays more like a. I would even say like a false nine because he
Like higher
tries
up.
yeah, he tries to go up all the time. He receives the ball first thing, boom, right? So we need players like that, right? We don't need to be playing the ball side to side and then the game is gonna be very predictable. we need to be unpredictable like we used to before. So in order for that to happen, Coleman needs to do some changes or needs to realize, okay, we can't just play safe all the time, right? So
Fiona, what do you think?
I'm
What?
gonna be honest. Everything's going in one ear and out the other.
All right.
Like I don't
I'm gonna
watch.
I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on to something you're probably more familiar with. The Canadian women's team beat England 2-0. So that was exciting. To be honest, I didn't watch the full game, but I watched like extended highlights. And we looked good, man. We looked organized. There was a lot of hunger. They were playing with intensity. Players seemed to know where they want to be, what they want to do. There was a whole game plan, and they forced England to make some mistakes and took advantage of those mistakes. So your favorite player didn't score a goal, Jordan Hitima,
A little
but
sad about that.
shout
A
out
little
to.
bit sad.
I'm still trying to get them to be on the podcast. So shout out to.
Oh my gosh. If she's watching this right now,
Yeah.
please be on this podcast. I
Yeah.
will fangirl so hard. Oh my gosh. I love them.
Yeah.
I love the women's team so much.
Yeah.
And like, because I like grew up watching them, and like Christine St. Clair was like this amazing woman that like I could like look up to, even though I wasn't a striker. I don't know why I was watching her specifically. I think it's just because she was like the name of the team. Like she was the woman that you knew when you thought of the Canadian women's team.
Yeah.
And like, it was really nice to like have those people be like role models for like young female athletes. And like they still are.
For sure.
There's like a lot of new younger players that can be the role models for the even younger kids. Like obviously it was like almost a completely different team when I was growing up, and now it's like evolving and it's just becoming even better, and I love it.
Yeah, and the fact that the games are available, we can watch them. I think it's really good as well.
And they play a lot more games now.
Yeah,
Like the women's team, they play more games than the men's team throughout the year. A lot of like small tournaments and stuff, which is really good to see.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was good. TFC, I know Lau wants to get to that. I watched extended highlights. I missed the game, but TFC looked good, man. TFC looked good, and we were missing some big players. I tell you what, though,
players, yeah.
that last save from Bono at the end. Oh, that was big.
Yeah, well, it was 2-1, and if they scored in that moment, the other team would have advanced in by away goals, right?
Yeah, I know.
But
the referees messed up too. One of our goals didn't count because it came off the defender.
That's the thing. Everyone argues about offsides, VAR. But when VAR is not implemented, you see the mistakes that the referees can make, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, much like the women's team, TFC has had a resurgence in the last like 2 or 3 years. Well, since we won the MLS Cup, right? And it gives like a big opportunity for kids in Toronto to have role models to look for in the local game. You don't always have to look to Europe to see role models. You have them playing in BMO Field.
Well, Bradley, I think, had a great game. Like anybody that wants to be a central midfielder can just watch him.
The crazy thing about that game, that was the first 2 games under the new coach, right? And we got so used to playing one way with Greg Vanney. The new coach comes in, Armas, and we have a high pressing team that we haven't seen for TFC in like the last 5 or 6 years. And
that's how the second goal came too. That's how the second, you can see they were high pressing.
Yeah.
With that result, with a 1-0, to be that brave, to high press, because if they score, it's 1-1 again. It's a tie.
Exactly.
And then I don't know the name of the player, but he cut off the pass to the midfield, and then
Priso. He's one of the academy players. He's a 2002 playing for the first team, and see, that's like the new wave of Canadian players that we're going to be able to see leading up to the 2026 World Cup, right?
Yeah.
Which is it's going to be great.
Yeah, I saw your tweet too on Twitter saying, great win, underdogs. But it wasn't anywhere. It wasn't on any news and image. That's weird.
That's the problem too, right? If you want to develop the local game, but all the media outlets, CB24, CTV, and all those are not showing anything, whether it be because of there's like deals going on with like media producers who has the rights to the games.
Yeah.
But even then, like the news channels should really report on good things that happen within Toronto, right? And TFC beating a Mexican team with a bunch of young Canadian players should be Toronto news, right?
100% agree. I agree. I wonder how many of our players got to watch that game, both on the male side and on the female side, or the women's team. So I think it's very important. And, hopefully going forward, we can talk about those games more often. I would love to do that for sure.
Course, yeah.
Let's switch back. Champions League. Did you guys get to watch any of the games? What are your thoughts? Obviously, Real Madrid dominated. I just had to mention that.
I did not watch that game. I was watching Man City. So
Of course you didn't. In between those two games, Real Madrid beat Barcelona. I don't expect you to watch Real Madrid. Elkin, it's okay.
if they were playing against another better team, then I would have watched. But
So you don't think Liverpool is that good?
no, right now, no.
Not at the moment.
Liverpool is going through a very weird phase. Honestly, I don't know if it's because of the morale of the players. Since Van Dijk, had that injury, everything went downhill, right? So, but they can't just rely on one player, right? So I don't know if it's psychological, but yeah, it's not normal for Liverpool to be losing this many games.
Yeah, look at Real Madrid. They're missing Ramos. Varane tested positive for COVID, so he was missing. There was no right back.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Real Madrid was also missing a lot of players in the back, but I don't know. There's something about Real Madrid. I've been talking very negatively about Zidane, but to be honest, I think I need to give up, and I have to give a lot of credit to him because somehow the team looks even better without Ramos and Varane. I don't know. The backline was more organized. They weren't taking risks. They were sticking to the game plan. Like a lot of times you see Ramos intercept the ball and then he tries to play forward a little bit too much. He starts running up. Like it's not organized. It's too immature for a player of his,
Who was the second center back beside Militao?
Nacho Fernandez.
Oh, okay.
Who, it's his chance to shine and they're doing great. So I think I give a lot of credit to Zidane. I've always said his man management, his player management has really been very, very key in his success and in the team's success.
One of the things that I've seen about Madrid over the last season and a half is how important Benzema is. Benzema, now that Ronaldo left, a lot of big players left, and with the injury crisis, you really see what type of player he really is. And he's a world-class player. It's unfortunate that he hasn't been able to, for different reasons, play too much for the France team, but he's a top striker. Yeah. Even the goal in the El Clásico was beautiful too, right?
Oh yeah. And he's not just a goal scorer. He's like an all-around striker. He brings so much to the...
And a leader too, right? You can tell he commands the...
Yeah, he expects a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
But let's go to the topic of player management. We're all coaches here. We coach different levels. We coach, we played. So how important do we think player management is in being able to, as a coach, get the best out of our players? Doesn't matter if you're coaching a youth level, professional level, house league, any level. I think it's so underrated how we make every single player on the team feel, how much confidence we give them, how we manage them, how we look at them as human beings. Because I think, especially in today's game, players, even at professional level, players are very young, they're very rich, they can do whatever they want. So it's very important to, as a coach or as a leader, to be able to understand that, first of all. I think this is where Mourinho kind of lacks a little bit of leadership or understanding. But and then to be able to adapt and to be able to understand them one by one as human beings, as people. And then, so I want to know every single one of your thoughts about this. So
I'm gonna go first because I'm like okay, I'm still a player, obviously, but I've like been a player and I'm coaching now, which is really fun. But I'm like with like the youngest age group. They are so small, so little. They can barely touch the ball. Like they have no idea what's happening. But like you can still see like their level of confidence. Like you can still tell, even though they're so young, some of them like just have zero confidence, and you have to build that in them, and you have to tell them and encourage them constantly. Like especially with the little ones, like it's always positive reinforcement, like this way, that way, like all the time. And I think that even like as you get older, that's something that's so important. And I think that when I first came to the club, I didn't get any of that. Like I was like, this Elkin wasn't my coach yet, obviously. But there was another coach at the club. He doesn't work for the club anymore, but he was the worst. He made me feel so bad about myself and that I was like the worst player ever.
Why did you feel like that?
I think it was just like, I don't even know like specifics, but he was just very like he favored certain players, and he like you could tell like when he didn't like you, or if he liked a certain player more, like he would give them more attention and he would tell them that they're doing well. And like I was like, so I'm like someone who needs someone to tell me that I'm doing well in something. This is something I've learned about myself.
Yeah.
But it was like I felt so bad. Like I felt like I'm the worst player ever. I don't think I was the worst player ever. I definitely got better from where I started. I mean, Elkin's literally seen me grow up. He's 9th grade. I'm in first year university now, which is like really cool. I don't know, Elkin, you can tell people how amazing I am, but I don't know. Elkin has made me feel so good about myself. Literally any practice, any game, he's like, I'm gassing you up so hard right now, which is never something I do. But oh my God, it makes me like, it warms my heart.
So Elkin,
but he just like is so good.
So Elkin, what do you have to say about that? Like, what was it that you were doing as a coach? What was it that you saw in players like Fiona that needed more confidence, and how did you give that to them? How did you make them better individually, and then how did that affect the team?
Every single player has different characteristics, right? They respond to different types of ways how you can motivate them or how you can talk to them, right? So when I first came to the team to be the official head coach, right, we needed to change a couple of things, right? So especially bringing the confidence up of every player, right? We needed to make sure that we worked as a team and that everybody was doing their bits to make sure that everybody was feeling good in each practice, in each game, right? I think that Fiona touched on positive reinforcement, and a lot of times we focus so much on the oh, we need to win, or we need to take it so serious that we forget that sometimes we need to make sure that, okay, you know what, this is a game, and we need to make sure that we are focusing, we have discipline, and we have expectations, but we have to manage the side of the humanity of the players, right? So if I see a player that maybe does a bad pass, I'm not gonna say, hey, you did a bad pass or whatever, right? I'm gonna touch on, okay, did you receive the ball well, right? So instead of being so negative, try to compliment being realistic, right? So you can say, okay, Fiona, maybe your pass wasn't so well, but your control was great, right? So maybe next time what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to make sure that whenever you receive the ball, try to pass with the correct part of your foot and with the correct weight, and then that's it, right? We make mistakes, and that is something that I told the girls a lot. We make mistakes all the time, and if nobody's willing to make mistakes, then we won't be able to learn, right? And confidence is a very tricky thing, right? Confidence is a very tricky thing. So we just gotta make sure that we stimulate that in the brain all the time by being positive, by being by being a mentor, right? I did not have good coaches when I was growing up and playing. They will all be negative all the time. So from my experiences, I just, you know what, when somebody says something to me and it makes me feel good, maybe that's something that I'm gonna take and then apply somewhere else, right? Whether it be at High Park, whether it be anywhere else, right? So it's about how we can make the players believe that they are good enough, right? It's,
And
it's,
they
it's not just saying it, right? It's about making them believe, right? As soon as they do that, then it becomes much easier.
And it goes a long way too. Like, this is not the first time Fiona mentioned it. Fiona mentioned this in the last podcast too, and gave you a lot of credit as a coach, as her coach, and she will always remember this, and she will always take, the positives. She will appreciate it, and then she's gonna take that into her own coaching. So, and then transfer that to her players. So the impact it has, it's so massive, and it has to be noticed and has to be appreciated. Lau, how about you?
Yeah, well, first of all, like I agree with both what Fiona and Elkin have said. And touching a bit on like the discipline aspect and getting confidence up. One thing that I've learned, even outside of soccer, just like in like working environments and working in groups, if you're the leader in that situation, as we are as coaches, it's it's very beneficial for the group and the individual when you praise, let's say someone does something good, you praise them publicly so everyone can hear. But if you have to discipline, take them aside and have a one-on-one conversation. You don't really want to scold someone in front of the whole group, right? Because that just brings the morale of everyone down. So if it's a positive, share the positive with everyone. But if it's more like a negative, step aside and kind of correct the problem one-on-one, which is something that I've seen a lot of coaches recently in High Park implement. But much like Elkin said, when we were growing up, you would make one mistake and the coach like is yelling at you for 25 minutes, stops
And
the
the
whole practice to
and
yell
then
at
the
you or something.
players follow up on that too. Like myself as well, when I played, I wasn't a technically great player, so I made mistakes, and the coach would emphasize that the most. It was never what you did good. It was the negatives that were picked on, and then
Yeah,
the rest of the players would start following in that direction, and it would destroy me as a player. Like I. I couldn't even receive the ball because I was so nervous, and I was like, oh,
exactly.
I'm gonna mess up again. I'm gonna mess up again. And now as a coach, I don't want any of my players to ever feel that way, ever,
Yeah.
because
If the one thing I'd say is if it is like a tactical problem, right? Like, oh, I'm the left back and or like the player's like the left back and the coach is correcting something tactically, then you kind of have to say it publicly because it's about like the formation of the team and stuff. But that's when you implement something like what Elkin said, where you
balance it.
compliment them first, right? It's like, okay, you made the good touch, but maybe if you're, maybe you have to open up a bit wider or something, right? So if you do have to like criticize publicly, put like a compliment in first or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Do you guys know who Emma Hayes is? Oh,
No.
she's
I've
the
heard.
she's now the head coach of the Chelsea's women's team.
Hmm.
I was watching. It's interesting. This kind of is a good thing to mention after what Lau just said. She was. I was watching an interview of her, and she was talking about how she was still a player and she was playing on a team, and this wasn't Chelsea yet, and their coach got fired, and then the general manager of that team, who was also the goalkeeper, and she was 37 years old. So she was the GM, she was a goalkeeper, and she was like a one of the leaders on the team. She was 37, much older than her. Asked her, "Do you want to coach? Do you want to be the coach?" And she's like, the first thing I said was, "Well, you're like 15 years older than me. Are you okay with me coaching you?" And she was like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. Just become a coach." And then so she accepted the position. She became the team's coach, and then she's like, a few games later, our goalkeeper, the GM, the person that made me the head coach, was not playing well, and I had to make a decision. What do I have to do? Should I just be safe? She's my boss. She hired me, and just go with it, or do I drop her and have this conversation with her? and she decided to have a conversation with her. She said, "You can't drop me. I'm the leader. I'm the GM. Like you can't. Everybody, all the fans come here to see me. You can't drop me." So what she did was she said, at the practice, I got every single player to anonymously rate every single player's performance. So it was anonymous. So the entire team got involved. And then she also got the entire team to anonymously put down the starting 11 that they think should start next game. And she's saying more than 2/3 of the players did not have her as a goalkeeper. So this was her way of taking control. Team comes first, but also she got the players, the team, to send that message to her. So it was very interesting. I was watching this and I was like, we always talk about how we have to talk to the players one-on-one, we have to do this, do that, but there's other scenarios where a player is being negative. They're kind of, taking advantage of the situation. What do you have to do in that situation? And it was very interesting for me. I don't know. I would love to share that with you guys, but what are your thoughts on that?
I hate confrontation, but also at the same time, I can like do things that need to get done. Like I'm the person that people look to if, like, let's say I had a problem with Elkin. Like the team had a problem with Elkin. They'd be like, okay, Fiona, well, you go talk to Elkin. Don't know how that happened. Don't know where that came from, but that's just how it is. Like I would, honestly, if she was playing bad, I'd be like, okay, see ya.
That situation's kind of like difficult because there's like a clear like conflict of interest. If you're the GM of the club and you're the goalie and you're asking someone to be the coach that's a lot younger than you, like you kind of have to be a bit more self-aware. If you're the goalie, it's like, I mean, in that situation, it sounds like the goalie thinks she's higher than the rest of the team, which, I mean, I think the coach did the right move, right?
Well, let me give you another scenario. Let's say you're coaching youth, and you have a player that's not technically very strong, and every time you play them, they make mistakes and it costs the team. Do you keep that player and let them make the mistakes? It will cost the team, but the player will grow and learn from those mistakes. Or do you say team first? You take the player out, you put a better player, technically, let's say, in this specific example, the team does well. It will affect the player's confidence, but maybe you can work on that later in practice or in future games. Because this is something that comes up with every single coach. I've coached every level. I'm sure you guys have come across this. How would you deal with that?
I mean, personally, for me, it all comes down to like how that player is during practice, right? Is he technically bad because he doesn't care about practicing and getting better? Or, we coach like age groups that are in a time in their lives that they're growing a lot quicker, right? Some players, they're good when they're little and then they hit a growth spurt and they don't know how to control their body properly for like 2 or 3 years and they look worse than they actually are, right? But I think in that situation, first I will see how he behaves during practice and if he does deserve a spot in the team. And second, I'll look for good opportunities to play him, right? Maybe it's not starting. Maybe it's giving him 20 minutes at the end and working his way from there. But I wouldn't just bench him solely based on results. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. If we talk about player development, right? Player development, it's a topic that goes with what you said, right? It's important to understand what the player can offer, right? So, for example, if the player is not technically good, right, or if he's not at the standard of the team, then we have to do something about it, right? Because then is going to be tough on his confidence if he's playing against teammates that are at a level higher than him or her, or is playing against opposition that is way tougher, that is supposed to for his development or her development, right? It's very important to be able to identify where the player should be starting. So if the player is going to be starting in house league, if it's going to be starting in rep on the first team, second team, or third team. That's something that we have to look up as coaches and manage, right? That way we don't have any issues with that, right?
Yeah. The reason why I'm asking this is because honestly, there's no right or wrong, definite right or wrong answer. It's so complicated. Like you said, Elkin, player development, where does the player fit? What's the environment like? How old is the player? That's one of the reasons why there's no scores and standings until U12, right? Because until U12, it shouldn't matter if the team is conceding. Players, as long as players show up to practice and they're putting the effort in, which is Lau, what you're saying, they should be there. They should be playing, making the mistakes, and it's our job to be positive and create that environment for them so they're confident and they're okay with that. Everybody is okay with that. And the older you get, it gets more complicated. So it's a very complex situation, right? But it's something that comes up all the time in every age group, and it's important for coaches to analyze all the different aspects. There's parents that will come in, players.
Well, one thing that I could add is that us working in Hyde Park, we're very fortunate of the system that we have, where we have multiple spots to put a player, right? We have a lot of age groups have up to 3 teams. We have a very strong house league program. We have stuff in the middle, like the ball mastering, the striking that Elkin does, right? To give a lot of opportunities to the players, right? If I remember when I was growing up, when I was 12, 13, I was in the team for my age group, but that was the only team, right? It's either you do that or you don't do anything, right? But having a lot of opportunities for the players to go to the level that they belong to is very good, because they can grow from there.
Yeah. And they will be moving around. Just because they're in a certain team doesn't mean they're going to stay there. In 2 months' time, in 3 months' time, in a year's time, they will develop and they will be moved around. Fiona, did you ever, as a player, did you come across something like this where you weren't maybe performing as good as you should have been, or maybe you were lacking that confidence, but your coaches, maybe Elkin, created that environment for you to it's okay to make mistakes and grow from them?
Yeah, I think there was a certain point that I got to where I wasn't confident, but I was good. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like if I was put on the starting lineup, I would be like, me? Why am I on the lineup? Like that has happened to me so many times. Whenever someone would put me on the lineup, I'd be like, really? Like you want me to start? And then I would like freak out and panic. And I don't know. I think you need to make mistakes because you have to learn from your mistakes. Like, how are you going to learn if you don't make any mistakes? If you're perfect all the time, it's like, can you even get better, or are you just stuck in this spot? I don't know. That's my thought.
That's true. And it's important to make sure everybody knows it. Coaches know it. The rest of the players know it. Because every player will go through that. Parents, in our case, parents are aware of that. So I agree.
And to add to that, and gas Fiona a little bit up, she's a good player, very good player.
What position did you play, Fiona?
Fullback.
Nice.
And she did really well. She did really well.
Were you like an attacking fullback or more of a defensive fullback?
It depended on what we were going with. Like,
good answer. Both.
I can tell you one thing. Her shots or her crosses, oh man.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Oh yeah. Very good. Very good.
Alexander Arnold. Yeah. Good. I don't know. Who's the Canadian women's fullback? Do we know?
I don't even know.
Wikipedia.
Ashley Lawrence.
Yeah, Ashley Lawrence.
Where's number 10? Yeah, right back. I think so.
Look at that. Lau knows. Wow. We need to.
It's because she's a right back and she wears number 10, so it's like it stands out. I'm like, oh, why is she wearing number 10?
Yeah.
But she's a good player. I think she plays for PSG.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about, mention, touch on, if in case I missed anything? Are you guys excited to get back on the field soon, hopefully?
Let's pray.
I'm counting down the days, to be honest.
Yeah.
We have to work a lot on making sure that our mind is this is gonna sound a little corny, but I've been working a lot on it and making sure that your mind is connected to your body, right? So I see a lot of negativity outside, right? A lot of negativity in social media. We're going through a pandemic, but I don't see enough people, encouraging others to either exercise or work on themselves. It's very important. It's very important to be able to understand where you're at, right? Even if there's a pandemic, if there's no pandemic, we have to constantly be improving as human beings, right? And understanding our mind a little bit more, right? Understanding and then talking to ourselves a little bit more, right? And seeing the positive things of any negative moment that we're living in. You know what I mean? It's
Make the
yeah.
best out of every situation.
Yeah. A lot of people are going through a lot of hard things, and we just gotta make sure that we're there for each other, right?
For
And
sure.
yeah,
For sure. That's a great point, Elkin. Yeah.
yeah.
Mental health has always been very difficult, and something like this doesn't that makes it even more difficult. And we have to be there for each other. We have to try to stay positive, surround ourselves with positivity, not follow negative pages on social media. Follow positive people and positive pages. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I completely agree with you. That's it from me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being on the show. I enjoyed the chat. Before we wrap it up, any Champions League predictions? Who do we think is going to win?
Man City.
Man City?
I think.
Oh yeah.
You would think it's their year, eh? Yeah. They
Hey,
look like the most.
1 month ago, I was looking like Pep Guardiola. So 1 month ago. So I'm gonna go with Pep all the way.
Fiona thinks it's going to be Real Madrid.
Don't put words in my mouth.
Fiona said
have
that
no
to me
idea.
before the podcast.
I did not.
All right, Man City. I think I'm gonna go with Man City as well. I want Real Madrid to win, but I think Man City. PSG has a good attack, but at the back they still look sloppy.
The thing about Man City is that it doesn't matter who plays.
Yeah.
They have such a rotation of players that you can put anyone anywhere, and it's going to be a world-class team.
Yeah.
Like
Pep
right now
Guardiola.
they're playing. I don't know what the Chelsea score is. They're facing Chelsea right now.
Yeah, FA Cup.
And for the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And they rotated like 9 of their players, and it's still like a world-class team.
Yeah.
Right?
They have like three starting lineups that are world-class. I agree.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
especially since like all the games are congested since of all the pandemic stuff.
Yeah.
The team with the biggest roster usually is going to
help.
Yeah.
They can cope with injuries and stuff. All
So
right.
Chelsea's winning 1-0, and then we can wrap this up. And I think Chelsea will win today, unfortunately.
Right. That's interesting. We say Man City is going to win the Champions League, but they're losing right now. That's funny.
Oh wow!
All right.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Chelsea's in the Champions League too. Maybe Chelsea wins it.
No, Real Madrid will win. I think it's going to be a Man City Real Madrid final.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so too.
I think so. All right. Thank you, Lau. Thank you, Elkin. Thank you, Fiona. My pleasure to have you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys around.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
No problem. Take care, guys. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.